So happy New Year, everyone, and I'm going to start off with setting up a new experiment. I got this idea from a video post that crime pays but botany doesn't. He's a really intelligent guy from Boston. I think he's a botanist or horticulturist, I'm not entirely sure. But he has some very incredible videos on habitat with a variety of plants, including cacti and lophophora and everything. And recently he posted a video on an update he had with a peyote that was incredibly sunburned after he removed some invasive grasses, and it caused some sunburn on one of the lophophoras. And in the video you can see there's like a lot of
it's basically just a flattened shoot. Imagine a long cylinder that's put into a vise and then squished down into a little disc. That's what
damaged sunburned skin. And after the approximately 9 months following the first video, he came to the conclusion that the flesh wasn't replaced from the apex pushing outward, but rather the waxes, it basically pushed out and shedded the old skin, or it consumed it somehow or something, and it just like it formed a new layer of flesh. But I proposed that within that year it could have just simply regrown that entire head. But in any case, he was very kind in his response, and he provided a lot of insightful information. I'm going to have to do a lot more research on the different kinds of tissues and deep dive a bit into that information rabbit hole. But in any case, I really do enjoy setting up these experiments. So for the next month, I'm going to cover these are pretty small, but I chose this. I'll be covering I'll choose this one. I'll be covering this lophophora, where in summer, so I'm a little behind on starting this, but it should be fine. I'll cover this for an entire month, and in February I'll just remove it completely, so it should cause sunburn to the tissue. This is just a regular bottle cap I blacked out with a Sharpie, and it'll remain getting the same watering and everything. I'm not going to uproot it so that the taproot is still strong. I may remove this like late afternoon every once in a while, but I'll leave this overnight and everything so that it doesn't get any direct sunlight and it becomes very accustomed to the dark conditions. And this is a bit extreme. From my understanding, just covering with leaves and everything, it'll filter out most of the light spectrum, and I think only the deep red passes to the undercover, like under the canopy or whatever, and that's what causes a difference in growth patterns and everything. But in any case, I'm just setting this up. I chose this one, and in a month I'll begin recording a time lapse. I already do a time lapse of this entire tray, so it'll be easy, and we'll see if his conclusion was correct. It will be very interesting to see, since I have never observed this. I am very interested in seeing the outcome. Actually, I came to the same conclusion that he came to, I think, in the first video 9 months ago, and he explained just what I've observed with the time lapses that I've made, that the growth always comes from the apex and then it comes outwards to the edges, and all of this areoles and skin or flesh, it becomes the subterranean flesh or the subterranean stem, and within a year it will easily recover an entire head. And Keeper Trout, in one of his videos on Australian Shaman, I think that's the channel, where he gave a talk on lophophoras and their history and everything, he explains the same idea, where many times the entire head, regardless of the amount, is actually an entire year or two of growth. And we tend to think that it always accumulates on the surface, but with habitat plants, you only see that the recent years growth. And I have that similar setup, but in this case it was from removing the flesh. So we'll see if without damaging the actual flesh and only Sunburn, it will either recover internally and then it'll push out new flesh from inside under the wax, or if it'll just push out the new growth and replace it completely, which is what I think will happen. Again, this isn't trying to say that he's wrong. It's just, with my observations, it's not in line. I think that the big jump that he had with 9 months, it just caused a fallacy in his observation. But in any case, in I guess a year, we'll see the outcome of Sunburn. With other postings that I see online with mite damage and other damaged lophophora, the growth is always replaced from the apex outwards and not itself. So again, is it possible? It's entirely possible. I'm well aware that I'm far from informed on many topics, but if you've been to my channel for a little while, you'll see that I like to test even more things that are considered common knowledge. I always like to test it regardless, and many times with my ideas I am completely wrong, but there are a few times that I'm pleasantly surprised. And regardless, it'll be a new process that I've never seen before, and I do have a lot of reading and suggestions that I got on the different type of tissues, so at least I have a lot more to read now in my free time. So yeah, this is just a new experiment for the new year, and thanks for Crime Pays but Botany Doesn't. If somehow you found my channel and haven't seen his, check his out. His is amazing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Hopefully 1 month in this deep shade of basically no light will be enough to cause the sunburn damage, and I'll set up the time lapse like I have for this entire tray. I'll just provide a closer photo for the experiment itself. If you have any suggestions for reading material on this topic specifically, I'd love to get more suggestions. And yeah,